on the council side, unless it's an extreme emergency, we don't do adjustments to the agenda. Whatever's been published is what's gets published. Yes. Well, mostly every week. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Saco School Board for November 23rd, 2021, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Let the record reflect that all the school board members are present, with the exception of School Board Member 1, Mr. Pileski, has been excused for this evening. With that, I'd like to invite all of you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Brings us to item 3 of the agenda, approval of school board meeting minutes dated November 10, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member Johnston.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated November 10th, 2021.
Second.
Seconded by School Board Member Preble. Any discussion on the minutes? Roll call vote on the minutes. School Board Member Preble.
Yes.
School Board Member Richard.
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune.
Yes.
School Board Member Massey.
Yes.
School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item 4. Any adjustments to the agenda? Seeing no adjustments to the agenda, moves on to item 5. A couple of things under correspondence. First off, we'd like to congratulate the Thornton Academy football team for not only going undefeated in this season, but also becoming Class A state champions. So a big round of applause for the Thornton Academy football team. On much sadder news, it's with unfortunate that I have to present this, but previous school board member Art Tardif passed away over the weekend, and the funeral services will be Cody Funeral Home on Monday the 29th from 4 to 8 p.m., and then the Mass will be at St. Joseph's in Biddeford at 11 o'clock on Tuesday the 30th. So at this time, I would like to ask everyone to, let's have a moment of silence for Art Tardif. Thank you very much. That is all I have for correspondence. Is there any other correspondence at this time? School Board Member Truman, is that pen? Oh, okay. I thought your pen was up. You were signaling me that you wanted to speak. All right, no other correspondence. That brings us to item 6 of the agenda, public session. If there's members of the public that would like to address the school board, please come forward and be heard. There are no members of the public wishing to speak to the school board. Moving on to item 7, superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, good evening. In the superintendent's report under A, there is a strategy to attract, hire, and retain employees that Mr. Endorf will be given an update during the new business portion of the agenda. One of the pieces, just to kind of echo on Mayor Doyle, is that we lost Art this week, and I got to know Art a little bit over the last 7 months and knew him beforehand. And He was a spirited individual who, what I appreciated about him is you always knew where you stood with art, and he had a deep caring for this community. And a few weeks ago, Kevin and I had the opportunity to take over his school committee retirement chair, which he was really appreciative of, and got to spend a little bit of time with him and his family. So my condolences to Art's family, as he will be missed. Yesterday, we had a combined building committee, site inventory committee, and programs committee, and we're in the final kind of phases of wrapping up some recommendations that we'll be able to put out to look at the 4 to 5 different options that the community will be able to weigh in on very soon of what grade level configurations would be. The next step for us is that all the different configurations that are available for us to kind of talk about, debate, of what's best for the community will require possibly different size sites or ways to look at things. So the next part of the project will be taking the recommendations from the program committee, lining them up with the site selection committee to say, hey, if you did this, you would need this much land, X, Y, and Z, and this one could be different, so that we can have a great comparison out there. Over the next couple of weeks, Oak Point will be working on really identifying what would be local and or state costs and making it very clear that whatever choice the community makes, we are fully aware of what is left to deal with. So whatever decision is made, we need to know what decisions could then, or problems or challenges could come up in the future, so that there's clarity around any of the decisions and what's best for this community. So feeling pretty good about how the building project is moving forward. I think we're making some good headway, and we will probably, I would say, right after the holidays, have another one of those community meetings to start talking about options. Want to thank building staff, Karen Chassie, the nurses in Saco and in Biddeford, and our principals, and our community partners who put on 5 vaccination clinics in the last 2 weeks. We had one at here in Saco at the Parks and Recs, and we had one at Fairfield School, and they were busy. And we were able to do well over 900 vaccinations between the 3 communities, which is a great step in the right direction for us. We've been told by the Department of Education to expect a change after the holidays and into the New Year's in the SOP of how we return to school, that they will be looking to see about vaccination rates in each community and in each county, and try to make some decisions about what an off-ramp might look like. And then finally, just a shout out to our staff, thank them for their hard work as we start to go through and move into the holiday season, and we start our Thanksgiving break. And without them, without the efforts that they put in each and every day, we wouldn't have our kids back in school, and we wouldn't be as successful as we are right now. So thank you to the staff for everything that they do. Questions?
Any questions for Superintendent Ray?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that the vaccination clinic over at Fairfield was a big hit for my kids. I couldn't get them to leave, so all the fun little activities that they had was super fun, and it was good to see all their classmates there too. So
Thank you.
thanks for arranging that.
Any further questions, comments? Moving on to item 8, the chair's report. Chair LaFortune.
Yes, I have just a brief update. So this past week, myself, Beth Johnston, and Jen Preble met with representatives from Biddeford to talk through just the current arrangement that we have in our superintendent contract right now, to just explore challenges and things that, basically things that are going well. The next step at this point is really kind of in the hands of the Biddeford School Board, who will be meeting this evening, correct? Is that correct, Jeremy? Yeah, they will be meeting this evening to discuss the arrangement from their own perspective. They're going to be doing that in an executive session. So just to reiterate how the contract itself works, that we're only one of a couple parties. The way that this process could go is that the other parties decide that this is not working from their perspective and decide that, yeah, well, they just will not have any interest in extending if that is the path that we go on. So we really are in a position now where we have to see what ultimately comes from that. I'm anticipating that depending upon the timing over the next week or so, given the holidays, that we will probably come back together again and meet with them to find out where they're at. And then that will feed into us having our own executive session for the board to discuss our perspective on matters to see where we go from there. And that's really all I have this evening. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Chair LaFortune? No questions.
Did I misstate anything from the two board members that were there or miss something critical? Okay.
Moving on to item 9, staff reports. There are no staff reports at this time. Is that correct, Superintendent Ray? That brings us to item 10. There are no board subcommittee meeting minutes. Brings us to item 11, old business. There is no old business. Therefore, we are at item 12, new business. We have item A, new hires. Superintendent Ray?
On the agenda, I have some appointments that require no action. It's a notification of the hiring of ed techs and replacement. There's no action on those positions.
Any questions from the board on the new hire positions? There is no action. Moving on to item B, resignations. There's a list of resignations in the packet.
Correct.
Any questions from the board on resignations for Superintendent Ray? Moving on to item C, which is a COVID update. Superintendent Ray, will you be providing the COVID update?
Yes. So in your packet, like in the other month, it's just trying to give you the week-by-week breakdown of close contacts, positive cases, and positive pools that have occurred over time. You can see that at this point in the year, we've had 60 positive cases, with 15 of those positive cases coming from positive pools. One of the pieces that, as you look at 770 close contacts, because of the different layers that we have from masking to pool testing, it really allows us to keep our kids in school most of the time. We have seen a recent uptick lately in the amount of positive pools, which would correspond with the rest of York County and the state of Maine, and that we just want to encourage people to be as safe as we can over the holiday time, and hopefully when we come back, pool testing will be a little bit different the first week when we come back, because there was no pool testing this week based off direction from the Maine Department of Education, and that when we return to school, because it's the first week that pool testing would occur, if you were part of the pool testing on a regular basis, and let's say that myself, I was in a positive pool, the way that I would stay in school that week of being part of that pool is I would need to receive, in a positive pool, 2 negative by next now tests until that cycle is reestablished again, where pool testing is up and running on a consistent basis. So we'll see a little bit of change next week, but overall, still very fortunate to have our kids in school as much as we have been.
Any questions from the board on the COVID update? Okay, moving on to item D, which is athletic guidance. We have three bullets under item D, and that is guidance from MPA, MSSA, and MIAAA. Also, York County guidance and Saco School Department requirements. Superintendent Ray.
So we're a little different here in Saco, where our only athletic concerns are really at the middle school level, as we're fortunate enough to have those stipends back, and we're fortunate enough to keep kids having the ability to participate. And that's the big piece right now, is as we look at our student body, knowing that they need outlets to participate in a safe way. And one of the challenges over the course of the last several months as we move into the winter season is to try to come up with measures that are safe for everybody and make sense. And I have provided the two kind of groups that have been meeting on this, one being the Maine Principals Association, which governs high school athletics, and saying, how does that fit into what we would do at Saco Middle School? And really, a lot of what they are following is what we follow every single day in school. We recommend that people mask, and we recommend that there's pool testing. And those are the big elements of the requirements. And so what I'm asking for tonight is for us to look at our own Saco School Department requirements. And one of the pieces that is the big challenge is that the MPA obviously is recommending masking and recommending highly that athletes are involved in pool testing. And what I would like us to do tonight is vote on guidance that we would require either our athletes to be vaccinated or to participate in pool testing. Some of the challenges that exist for our coaches, athletic directors, principals, and school nurses is that when it goes to a situation where we are contact tracing for an athletic team, let's say, you're having to call that parent in a short season and saying, oh, by the way, your child can't participate and is going to miss 4 ball games. And that rolls out. The other piece is that if they're a close contact in school and they're not participating in testing, the mask keeps you in the classroom, but the mask doesn't apply to after-school activities. And so you see more kids in a short season missing out on participation. Another challenge that we have, and this isn't so much with middle school athletes, but it could apply to our middle school track program and swim programs later this winter, is that places like, for the swim program, University of New England, have a vaccination requirement or a testing requirement. And so for a school nurse, on top of everything they're doing, or the athletic director or principals, to now say, oh wait, we're going to this site on Thursday, and I've got to make sure that all of the kids who are not vaccinated receive a Buy Next Now test so that they can participate. Some facilities will not accept the Buy Next Now test and will only take a PCR test. We do not have the capacity to manage this outside of what we're doing every single day. And all we really want is for our students to be able to participate every single day. So I talked with the athletic director today, and we have a very high number of our students, like 78, 80% of our students are either in the vaccinated or pool testing status. We would communicate with those families based off how you vote tonight, and we would be giving them until December 1st to sign up for pool testing, giving them some time so they can look at those considerations, and ask that they be in the pool starting the week of December 13th. I just don't see how our nurses or athletic directors or administration, especially when we come to the track piece, and knowing that the city of Portland and some of their buildings have many different requirements, I just don't see how we take 100 kids that may be on a track team and on the Friday before test 25 of them if they're not part of that, and possibly being able to manage that, communicate to the parents, because the worst piece that's going to happen is that you're going to be communicating to parents on a Friday saying, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't get a testing, you missed a day, whatever, because the school's going to be responsible for showing that test. And this is, I think, the only way that we can possibly try to stay above and keep our kids safe. And that's all we want, is to make sure that kids can participate and be safe. So I entertain any questions.
Questions from the board? Board, you did receive this in your packet. It's a headline, Saco School Department Winter Sports Guidelines. Is that the document that you would like the school board to vote on tonight, Superintendent Ray?
That is correct.
Is there a motion to approve the Saco School Department requirements for winter sports guidelines?
Mr. Mayor,
School Board Member LaFortune.
I move that we approve the request to require pool testing for our student athletes.
Second.
Motion's been made by School Board Member LaFortune, second by School Board Member Truman. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
School Board Member LaFortune.
I don't necessarily have a question, it's more of just a clarifying point. So using the UNE example, one of the things that was described in this document was that the expectation of, for example, a visiting team somewhere else is that the most stringent rules are the ones that are in force. So that could be UNE, it could be students participating in a game at another school that has already adopted a policy like this. Just, that's a accurate statement.
So when we talk about the most stringent, we would be talking about masks. We would be talking about the vaccination requirements that sometimes some of the facilities have. I think that's where that would stop for us, would be the masking, is we would 100% be masking. Superintendents throughout York County have been on the same page that really the conversation is about schools that are choosing to possibly not wear the mask during competition. And I would also preface this that there are things, especially around like track and wrestling, which we don't have a lot that we deal with, that are changing day to day, of like what is going to be the recommendation for a mask for a kid who's participating in the mile or the 2 mile. But the masking piece would be that the student athlete piece for the requirements of pool testing would be a local only, because we wouldn't have the ability to manage other schools coming to us without the pool testing. And one of the challenges is that not all districts are doing pool testing at all. And even though some of them have asked to do pool testing, there's the contract with the state, because there's not enough supply, they're not enrolling other districts, even who have asked, because they can't, the contract can't meet the capacity. So the compliance would be around those outside facilities, or anybody who has that mask mandate, that anyone who came here would be participating in that.
Right, so I guess my point is really that we don't have a lot of control over visiting teams in our facilities, but this approach of requiring pool testing for our own athletes is a way of smoothing the path for our own kids to be able to participate.
Correct. And I think that's the piece, is that, you know, the rules for the expo, I believe, is where we run the middle school, is at the expo for the track. We don't know what those have changed a little bit, and several of the Portland facilities have different rules right now. And I find it difficult for parents and for kids to get that phone call on a, Thursday or Friday and say, oh, by the way, the rules here just changed. I'm sorry. But we know that most facilities are accepting pool testing as a test that would get them out of that. It's like if you want to go to, the Celtics tomorrow night, you have to be able to show a negative test or a vaccination card. And I think that's hard for our families to react to if we don't have a program in place that can consistently monitor that and do that, because I think we talked earlier that if we didn't have that program in place, We can't just expect that a family can go to the store and pick up a Buy Next Now test, because sometimes they're not there. And then how does a school take that Buy Next Now test that was done at home and provide that as the responsibility and proof that somebody is negative? That's just not something that we can manage. And so this is why we believe this pool testing is the best option for our athletes to avoid those situations.
Any further questions from the board? Roll call vote on the motion. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Massey?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
And School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to item E, which is a hiring update by Chris Indorf and Shelley Kane.
Good evening. Shelley's still over at 90 Beach Street orienting a new staff person, and so I told her that I could take the report for this evening and field any questions that the board might have. So I direct you to the memo that's in your packet, but I just want to reiterate to this board and to the public that for several months we've talked about the challenging job market in York County, in Maine, and in the nation. We have a confounding sort of nexus of low unemployment, high underemployment, so-called COVID stay-at-homes. We have inflationary pressures on wages, and we have schools cannibalizing other schools. You may have seen that some schools in Cumberland County recently have offered incentives for bus drivers, for example, for up to $3,000 to sign on, and that certainly has some negative consequences downstream for other school departments who are trying to retain their employees. The Saco School Department in the last 6 months has tried several low or no cost strategies to appeal to workers. Sometimes we can't always compete on the issues of wage, so we've really tried to message about the value of working with in schools, the lifestyle, the calendar, the mission-driven sort of nature of the work, and we've had a lot of success, quite frankly, but we're still short in several key areas. Schools have really been kind of fortunate. Businesses invest between 1/3 and 50% of the average professional's first-year salary in recruitment, retention, and training. And traditionally, for hourly employees, it's closer to somewhere in the range of 5 to 15%. And we functionally invest zero, really, outside of a little bit of overhead. And we've been able to get away with that, quite frankly, because employees have traditionally come to us. But we're really in a position where we now need to go to employees and be more aggressive and thoughtful about how we recruit, attract, and retain our employees. On page 2 of the memo that's in your packet, I enumerated the areas of greatest need within the Saco School Department, and I'd highlight those again for the listening public. They include, in descending order, substitute teachers, substitute nurses, educational technicians, full and part-time bus and van drivers, teaching specialists for particular content areas, and full or part-time custodial staff, and lastly, food service workers. So what we've done, especially this fall, we saw the mayor, for example, at the Saco Downtown Harvest Festival. We've had job fairs. We've made an online push into some new platforms. We've done some more active recruitment through direct marketing. We've offered training and some waivers. We've simplified our application process. And this board has increased the rates of pay for certain substitute positions. But last week, Shelley Kane from the HR department and I met with the superintendent to propose a more comprehensive package that the Biddeford, Saco, and Dayton schools would join into together and share the cost proportionally. Again, when we do things as a consortium, we tend to get more bang for our buck. And so we've put together a comprehensive package for the superintendent that would basically revolve around the creation of a 15-second TV commercial. And we're going to generate this commercial. I call it a TV commercial. It's not going to be aired on TV. More about which in just a second. We've engaged a local business in Kennebunk that we've used before, and we already have a lot of sort of B-roll in the can, and we're just going to get a couple more shots of custodial workers and bus drivers, put together a 15-second spot, and it's going to run for 1 month in targeted platforms. It'll be pushed and promoted through the 3 major social media platforms, and we also have engaged Hearst Communications, which will push it through certain streaming services, including Hulu and Amazon Prime. So when you go to start up that sponsored program on a streaming service, if you live in a certain zip code catchment area and you've also Googled certain terms that we identify, like school, driver, substitute, Saco, then you will receive a targeted ad, and that's for you and only you sitting in your living room. So rather than do, for example, a 9-second hit on Maine Public Radio, which costs thousands of dollars and touches Kittery to Fort Kent, we can really narrow it down to zip code, interest, search terms, and all that sort of thing through a very complicated process that I don't pretend to understand, that involves things called pixels and cookies and regenerated and retargeted advertising and all that sort of stuff. We'd also get promotional presence on WMTW's homepage. We would get banner ads on the Weather Channel app and the Weather Channel homepage for a designated period of time, as well as some of those retargeted ads that I discussed. You'll also be noticing some pretty good-looking 4-foot by 8-foot banners that'll be going up across the city in prominent locations, including the tennis courts at Young School, on Beach Street at the Fairfield fence, and we've asked the Saco Little League for permission to use their stockade fence. You know, they have Christmas tree sales on Industrial Park, and anyone who's been on Industrial Park at 8 a.m. or 5 p.m. knows that that's a good spot to catch some eyeballs that aren't currently looking at the road, because that tends to turn into a parking lot. We've also created a website shortcut that directs candidates directly to our hiring platform, and we also have website integration across all platforms and all schools to try and put together a package to continue not only to fill any vacancies that we have, but also, if we have the opportunity, to build a little bit of a bench. Because as you can see from this meeting's resignation, last meeting's resignations, we do have some churn, as any organization of our size does, and it's important that we have some folks kind of waiting in the wings so that we don't miss a beat for our kids' programming. Please don't ask me to explain pixels, cookies, and retargeted ads, but I'm happy to explain any other part of this memo that the board might have interest in.
Any questions for Mr. Endorf? No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That completes the new business for this evening. Brings us to item 13. Is there any other information? No other information for this evening. There is no executive session. Brings us to item 15. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
School Board Member Truman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by School Board Member LaFortune. Any discussion? Roll call vote to adjourn. School Board Member Preble?
Yes.
School Board Member Richard?
Yes.
School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Massey?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 to adjourn at 5:32 p.m. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and have a happy Thanksgiving.